Hello, my name is Keith, and this is a series of videos about healthy living. If you like these videos, please click like and subscribe on this YouTube channel, Get Healthy Now. This video was created during the Mayor's Fitness Challenge, where communities competed against each other to be deemed the most fit city. They would log in their minutes each week as members of the team, and the team that had the highest percentage of overall minutes would receive a trophy, a moving trophy that went from community to community each year. Each week, we included a video to provide health education during the challenge. This one is titled Mindful Eating, and Angelika Keene is the presenter.
All right. Welcome, everyone. As you can see, this webinar is being recorded for your convenience. My name is Angelika Keene, and I am with the University of Florida Extension Office. My role is community development, health, and wellness. So I am here today to present to you on this concept of mindful eating. So let's go ahead and dive right into what that looks like. So a little bit about the overview. Before we can talk to you specifically about mindful eating, we have to kind of define what is mindfulness and what are the benefits behind it. Like, why am I talking to you guys about this and what can you kind of gain out of it? And then we're going to dive into specifically what is mindful eating. So we're going to talk about your eating habits in general, just kind of a quick overview of nutrition. We're going to provide you with some practice tips, strategies, kind of what mindful eating is, what it isn't, and then we're going to end with an actual mindful eating exercise. So if you're eating your lunch, you're welcome to kind of save a few bites or, start at that time, whatever's most comfortable for you. Or like I said, this is being recorded so you can just fast forward or participate in this activity or that session as many times as you see fit or that best helps you. So let's dive into what is mindfulness. So mindfulness is this concept of paying attention in a particular way, meaning that you're in the present. Sometimes people have heard, refer to this very commonly for years as being in the moment. And it's this idea of being in the moment, though, without judgment. Okay. So when we start talking about this mindfulness practice, that's exactly what it is. It's something that we want to practice, and we're actually doing it far more often than we think we are. Mindfulness is pretty much anytime we're aware of our surroundings. Anytime you're thinking about what specifically are you doing, you're not overreacting to what's going on around you, but you're really being aware of your surroundings. So how many of you guys have walked outside and just stepped outside and taken a big deep breath and relieved that stress and kind of looked around and enjoyed how beautiful it is outside? That's really a moment of mindfulness. Now, there is a resource, excuse me, at the bottom of this page where this quote comes from, and that is www.mindful.org. That is a great place to start if you're not sure kind of where to start and to dive into this mindfulness concept and learning more about it. So now when we think of mindfulness, there's actually two kind of forms of practice. One is the informal mindful, which is what I just talked to you about. It's going outside, it's your day-to-day task, it's taking a bite of, that first sip of coffee in the morning where you're really appreciating it. And it's kind of these quicker moments that are occasional, and we start to realize kind of what's happening in or around us. We're observing. So it could be also things like you're doing the dishes or enjoying that really lovely hot shower, or sometimes when you're painting your pictures, or if you, kind of vent out your thoughts when you're journaling. These are all what we call this informal mindfulness. And it's a fantastic way to practice. And as I said, it's something we do daily without even really being conscious of. And it's something that with formal practice can actually become stronger, and we get more benefits. Now, a formal practice consists of a planned routine. So it's the same concept of being present in the moment, allowing yourself to kind of be aware of your surroundings and take everything in. It's just done in a formalized way. So a lot of times when people think of mindfulness, they think of things like meditation, yoga, but there's also activities such as walking, eating, breathing techniques. Today, we're specifically going to dive into mindful eating. So again, talking about this mindfulness, what it is versus what it isn't. Mindfulness is not thinking, okay? Because you can never turn your brain off. Your brain is always wandering, moving, analyzing, and that's actually part of the mindfulness, is understanding that your brain never turns off, and that's okay. It's this idea of focusing in on how to kind of white noise the other things going on around you and pay attention to the one component that you're looking for. So let's dive into the benefits of mindfulness. Now, mindfulness is one of those fantastic things that, like I said, we do it all the time. And the more we become conscious of it, the more we move into that formal mindfulness, we really start to see these huge benefits. And they kind of divide into two categories. The first is your physical. And some of your physical benefits is it's great for your immune system. It helps to manage chronic pain or disease. It helps you maintain that healthier weight and fosters that healthier lifestyle. And it does this by things like improving your sleep. If you're in less pain, sometimes you're taking less medicine. If you're kind of watching what you're eating, then you're kind of got that healthier weight going. But on the mental and emotional side, this is where it really comes to be impactful, because mindfulness has been shown to reduce stress, anxiety, and depression. It also increases your focus because it kind of changes how your cognitive flexibility, meaning how quickly can you adapt to your surroundings and your situation. And it really helps to improve your sense of work-life balance because you're really starting to nurture your self-compassion and your self-acceptance. So again, the mindfulness is this concept of realizing what's going on, being in the moment, taking it all in, but not judging it. And that's something that I know sometimes is a hard thing to process. And it's something we all struggle with, but it's something that really helps you kind of overcome. Because if you can step back and analyze the situation or the moment from what it is, then you really start to feel empowered for both your self-compassion, acceptance, stressful situations, and overall focus. So mindfulness as a whole has a really huge amount of benefits. And so one tool in that formalized mindfulness practice is mindful eating. And that's what we're going to dive into today. So a little bit about eating habits in general. So I can't talk about mindful eating without first kind of doing a quick reminder on like kind of the basics of proper nutrition. And the idea is that, again, I say proper nutrition because diets don't work. We're not promoting any diet because diets are generally too restrictive. They cause this idea of this forbidden food, and that can create things like eating disorders and other unfortunate side effects because it kind of frames it as reward and punishment when you think about it as restriction. So instead, we want to think of what we eat and how we eat as proper nutrition so that we're fueling our body in the best way possible. And how to do that is just kind of by being moderate and being aware of what your body needs. And so kind of thinking of this, many of you guys have seen this myplate.gov. If you haven't, that's a fantastic resource to dive more into what does proper nutrition look like and kind of how to fill your plate. But the idea is that what you see here is you see lots of fruits and veggies. There is whole grains. There is some proteins. You're getting in dairy if that's something your body can tolerate. So you're getting in all of your food groups in a creative and way that works best for what you're trying to accomplish. And then the second part of that is keeping in mind that with that proper nutrition comes that exercise component. And we just I put the reminders of kind of what people should kind of be thinking of as a goal when they're thinking about their exercise. Again, we're part of the Mayor's Fitness Challenge, so we always want you guys counting your minutes of exercise. But for children, you should be trying to get them at least 60 minutes per day. For adults, anywhere from 150 to 600 minutes per week of moderate intensity exercise, and at least 2 times a week doing that extra strength training. And there'll be other trainings that dive into kind of the benefits of what's moderate, what's strength training, kind of how they work. But then this concept of proper nutrition mixed with exercise mixed with this idea of mindful eating is used as a tool to improve your eating behaviors, encouraging that weight control, prevent chronic disease, and foster that healthy relationship with food. And that's what we kind of want you guys to move to. We want you guys to move to not this idea of like diet and restriction and yo-yo, and we've all heard it before, and it's all a cycle we've all fallen into. But this healthy relationship, meaning that you're eating all of your 5 food groups, and you're getting in kind of what you want to do. And one way to help repair that relationship or build that relationship is with this mindful eating. So what specifically is mindful eating? We've talked about kind of overarching mindfulness, but what is mindful eating? So mindful eating helps us focus on the present, particularly the satisfying pleasure of eating. This practice allows us to learn to remove distractions while we eat. It encourages you to chew thoroughly and take pauses during this process. And again, when we get into our our taste test and our like walkthrough activity, we're actually going to be using all 5 of our senses. So again, it's this concept of listening to your body without judgment. And the beauty is there's no right or wrong way to eat. It's kind of varies based on your degree of awareness, your food preferences, what you enjoy, what you dislike. Okay. It allows yourself to kind of become aware of those positive opportunities and how your food selection actually affects you. For example, I'm someone I have problems with dairy. So that's not generally, I try to stay away from the cow's milk and the lactose because that's what works for my body. On the other hand, I know a lot of people that don't have that problem and they can enjoy the cheese and things like that. And that's fantastic because listening to that body is this idea of mindfulness. And then it's that gratitude of understanding that food is fuel. It's fuel for both your mental and physical. You ever heard that statement, you are what you eat? It is very true because your body is made up of cells, and what empowers your cells to grow, what gives them the opportunity to develop, expand, is actually the food that you consume. So the food that you choose to consume becomes every piece of you. It determines how clear your skin is. It determines your gut health. It determines how fast your hair grows or your nail grows. So this idea of mindful eating kind of dives into ways to look at why we eat, what we eat, where we eat it, and how we do it. Okay. It's this idea of eliminating distractions while we eat, being present, taking breaths, and this all important thing. I don't know if you were like me, but my mom would always lecture me when I was a little kid about chewing my food. Chew slower, you're gonna choke, swallow, chew, 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 chew. And sometimes when we get in a hurry, how many of us have lunch sitting at our desk, trying to type out emails? It happens all the time. But if we stop, take a breath, and chew our food and kind of breathe in the situation and notice, then we start to realize that without even trying, we're paying attention to things like portion size. We're noticing things like maybe smaller plates, or are we actually hungry, or are we just stressed? What does our body say, feel, or think? And again, this mindful eating, it's common to not do it. I mean, how many of us sit in front of a TV, and I know I am guilty of this, at night with either ice cream, a bag of popcorn, or whatever your favorite treat is, and next thing you know, the bag is entirely gone, and you're like, wait, did I even taste that? Did I enjoy that? Do I want more of that? Do I want less of that? How do I feel? How does my stomach hurt? And also another good example of not an example of mindful eating is Thanksgiving. I don't know if you're like me, but I get up from Thanksgiving dinner and I'm like, oh, I ate too much and I feel bloated and uncomfortable. But if I had slowed down and paid a little bit more attention to what my body was trying to tell me by listening to it, eliminating those distractions, chewing slower, and kind of diving into that portion size, I would be practicing mindful eating and I would be enjoying my Thanksgiving dinner without any of the discomfort that sometimes follows with it. So at this point, I'm going to actually guide you. And like I said, if you have food, you're more than welcome to do this activity with me. If you're currently eating, that's partly why we put it at lunchtime. But if you're not, please feel free to go back to this recording, as I said, and just fast forward to this section so that you can actually kind of walk through this as many times as you need or as many times as you'd like. So this activity may feel foreign to you, and it sometimes might feel a little silly, but I want you to go into this with curiosity and an open mind if you can, okay? So the first sense we're going to dive into is your sight and your touch. So what I would like you guys to do is pick up whatever food you're eating and hold it in the palm of your hand. So between your pointer finger and your thumb, I would like you to notice the color, the shape, the texture. How does that feel within your hand? Do you notice when you give it a little squeeze? Is it hard? Is it soft? Okay. These senses can all show you the imperfections and patterns and other details in your food. And keep in mind when you try this activity, we don't want you holding soup because it's not going to work as well. But again, what are you feeling? What is that texture? Notice like color, shape, all of it. Really start to dive in. How does that food appear to you? Because you won't eat with all 5 of those senses. And we're diving into sight and touch. So for the next few senses, I'm going to ask you to take a deep breath, okay? Get in a comfortable seated position. Have that food in front of you, whatever you're sampling. And I would like you to continue the rest of this activity with your eyes closed, okay? So taking that deep breath, closing your eyes, I would like you to bring that, the next sense we're going to dive into is smell. So I would like you to bring that piece of food close to your nose. With it close to your nose, I'd like you to take a nice big deep inhale and notice how does it smell? Okay, does it smell sweet? Does it smell citrusy? Does it smell earthy? When you take that smell, when you take that kind of sniff, does it bring back a familiar memory? Does that smell take you to a time or place? And it's perfectly okay if it does, because smells are one of the most common triggers to connect to our past. And it's not good or bad, it's just kind of how it works. Now, while you're exploring the smell, remember the nature of where our food comes from, okay? Is it farm grown? How many people had to be involved for you to actually have that food in front of you? Was it prepared at a store? Did you prepare it yourself? And allow yourself to feel that gratitude about all of those, including yourself, that worked in and around that food as you're taking that big, deep breath inhale and noticing all the smells that come from that food, okay? Next, keeping your eyes closed, we're going to move into taste. And now taste, I want you to notice the sensations in your mouth. So first, I would like you to put the piece of food in your mouth without chewing, okay? So notice, does your mouth instantly start to water? Let the flavors kind of roll around and explore the taste and the texture on your tongue. Do you notice as you move it around your mouth, do you start to have different flavors? Is it sweet? Is it bitter? Is it spicier in the front of your mouth or the back of your mouth? Okay. So you're taking this time to pause and really feel all of the sensations that are occurring in and around your mouth. Now, I would like you to slowly start the actual chewing process. And as you're chewing, I would like you to observe how your teeth feel, how your tongue and your saliva all work to break down this food. Notice as you're chewing it and the pieces become smaller and smaller, what additional sensations do you feel in your mouth? Does it change the texture from hard to soft? Was it soft to begin with? Okay. Notice how the chewing enhances the flavor. Maybe it has more spice or less spice as you're consuming it. Can you pick out different textures within the, looking at this example of the hamburger on here? Do you notice the difference of the seeds versus the bun? Okay, what is it you're noticing? The next type or sense we're going to dive into is sound. So again, while you're still chewing, I would like you to kind of take a moment, and I'm going to stop talking here in just a minute, but I want you to notice, how does it sound? Do you hear crunching or popping or squishing from your actually chewing? Okay. How loud do you chew or how soft do you chew? Okay. Do you notice other noises in the background, such as fans running, or maybe the noise of your computer or dogs barking outside? I want you to really just kind of take that minute, and as you're chewing, be aware of all the sounds around you. I'm going to go ahead and pause right here so everybody gets a chance to try that. When you're ready, I want you to go ahead and gently open up your eyes and understand that this was an example of mindful eating. It was an exercise that you can come back to and revisit as many times as you need. Okay. So this is the part of the presentation where we're going to dive into some discussions and some question and answer, some informational kind of things. So this is where I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen in just a minute, but I wanted to make sure that everyone had my contact information. So again, my name is Angelika Keene. That is my office phone number, and that is my email. So if you have any questions about mindful eating, mindfulness in general, or just other University of Florida Extension Office questions, I'd be happy to be a resource for any or all of those things. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen here so that we can actually have a discussion about this concept of mindful eating. Okay, so avoid that a little bit, kind of mindful eating and mindfulness practice. But at this point, does anybody have any questions about the presentation, thoughts, comments, things they want to share, things they noticed that things they noticed as they were going through the activity, thoughts, feelings, etc.?
So if you're able to, go ahead and share your screen, because that's usually makes it a little bit better for us. But also make sure you unmute yourself if you have any comments or questions.
And again, if you don't feel comfortable, putting on your camera, you don't have to, but we do always like to see faces if possible. And again, if you don't feel comfortable unmuting yourself, you can jump right in the chat and we'll answer it there too. So.
Hi, this is Angie. Great information. It's a good reminder, but we live in a fast, that we're always moving so fast and quickly. Any suggestions on how to probably slow down and, probably just taking the time? I don't know. You have some great inputs that you can share with, life going so fast and we're trying to keep up with it. How to eat healthier.
Absolutely. So how to eat healthier, there's two parts to that. One, how to eat healthier is trying to plan ahead. I've heard a great dietitian that I work with, and she said, because I'm not a dietitian, I'm in the mental health and mindfulness kind of expertise, which is why I'm teaching this. But she said, planning isn't half the battle, it is the battle, meaning that if you're hungry and you don't have a healthy snack, you're stuck with whatever they have. So that little bit of extra effort ahead of time really helps to kind of dive into that healthier eating component. But as far as directly to mindfulness, again, this doesn't have to be a long process. You don't even have to go through that activity. That activity only was about 5 to 10 minutes that we went through today. Mm-hmm. But because I wanted to kind of paint the picture for you guys and have a resource for you guys to go back to and really practice it. But think about it, something as simple as maybe when you first start your lunch, you don't check your emails for like, just give yourself like 2-3 minutes to just sit, look at your food, take a few bites, and then dive back in. It doesn't have to be very long. It can be something simple like, just putting those emails aside for just a moment or two to kind of regroup. Okay. It could be something like actually scheduling your lunchtime. Okay.
Mhm.
Just like they always say, scheduling your workouts then makes it a priority for yourself. Same thing with your nutrition. Schedule when you're going to have your lunch, or plan your lunch around your schedule to where it best fits, so that you're having this opportunity to reduce those distractions. Okay.
Another idea there with that is schedule your lunchtime. Maybe if you're at work with some of your other workmates, with a one rule set in place, and that is not to discuss work-related items.
Yep. And that's a great one, because that also builds your team, your camaraderie, and your connection, and as well as your relationship with your food.
That's true. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Doesn't have to be a question. It could just be a thought of something that you've noticed that works for you.
Angelika, it was great. I do have a question. I noticed that from an illness, it takes me longer to eat, and I may not be chewing my food as much as I should. Is there a rule of thumb for how many times you should chew before you swallow? I know that sounds pretty basic, but
that's actually a very common question. I don't know if there's a specific hard and fast rule, because that comes into a number of different factors, such as like how many teeth you have, how much saliva you have in your mouth. But the idea is that when you're chewing your food, it should be extremely small. So when you go to swallow it, you shouldn't need to take that big swallow. It should just kind of easily go down your throat. So if you're not chewing it kind of to where it's easy and kind of simple to swallow, then your body's not gonna have that good ability to digest the nutrients and that process, because it's gonna have to work so much harder. So I don't have a specific number for you, as science goes back and forth 20 times, 50 times. Like they haven't come up with a specific answer to you. But the other thing that you can do, if you find that you don't chew a lot, and you're not alone, a lot of people don't, but it's just cutting very, very smaller bites to begin with, because then it's already started kind of that chewing process for you.
okay, smaller bites is better for me, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
And the other thing is, if you're eating too fast, you're going to end up feeling it with heartburn or hiccups, or those kind of things. I have a tendency to do that, so that's how I know.
So one of the questions in the chat was that, yes, I mentioned chronic disease, and that mindfulness can help with chronic pain. Chronic disease, because you get your nutrition under control. Chronic pain. And that's when you start specifically getting into mindful breathing. We didn't talk about that today, but this idea of mindful breathing helps you to become aware. It's not going to eliminate your pain. Let me be very clear. It's not going to eliminate your pain, but it's going to help you to manage your pain potentially without as much medicine and instantly running for the Tylenol kind of thing. And when I say that, it's things like doing yoga and practicing your breath that specifically helps with that pain management. So the more you have that fluidity in your joints, the less, and like muscles and tendons and throughout your body that is provided to you within yoga, kind of the less pain you're going to have because the more movement is life. And then on the flip side, when you're practicing breathing, how many of you guys have ever stubbed your toe or hit your thing and you're all going, like we all do it, right? Why do we do that? We do that because the oxygen in our body actually starts to rush to that area, that oxygenated blood, and actually start to heal it. So instead of making that horrid noise that we all unfortunately do, if you can remember to slow down, take that deep breath in and out, you're still getting all that oxygenated blood to that injured area, but you're doing it in a way that calms your body down so that it's not trying to compete with other areas and it can just focus on what's injured. And that works with chronic pain as well, especially if you're having like a sciatica spell or things like that. Any other questions, comments, concerns, thoughts?
Good information. Thank you for sharing. I mean, it is everything right on the spot, because sometimes I do catch myself eating and it's like I'm just eating, but
Mhm.
I don't taste it, and either we're rushing or, but yeah, we do need to like make the time.
Mhm. Okay, hearing no comments, I'm going to go ahead and ask Keith to go ahead and stop the recording.